Hair. So much of our identity lives in it. Our hair shapes the way we see ourselves, and it affects the way society sees us, whether we like it or not. I learned this on the streets of New York, home of the catcallers. From whistles to commands, I've heard it all. It was annoying, and sometimes appreciated. When I was rocking my teeny-weeny natural afro, Brooklyn men would profess their love with the highest of honors. "You looking beautiful, queen." And, "I'm feeling that cut, sister." One day I switched it up and opted to wear my 34-inch Peruvian wig. It changed the way I felt and the way a few of the regulars addressed me. The calls became more suggestive in nature. "What's up, Slim?" "Hey, yo, chocolate." "Sexy." Didn't they know it was still me, the queen? This was yet another example of how stereotypes attached to hair impact our experience in the world. And maybe that's why a few days after turning 40, I completely panicked when I found a long gray sitting boldly in the front of my head. How was this going to change how the world saw me? How I saw me? How men desired me? Before I could completely freak out, gray hair randomly became a trend last year. Women were feeling empowered and throwing out the dyes and even purchasing wigs to experiment with gray. I saw some bad women rocking some dope styles. These women were sexy and sophisticated and gray. I was inspired and thought, maybe this won't be so bad. You're listening to The Maiden Myth, a podcast that challenges myths about single women, explores misconceptions about mature women, and celebrates the women breaking the mold of tradition. In this episode, we're addressing the myth, you should cover your gray hair. We have two incredible guests with us today. Lashawnda Becoats, owner and creator of Run Toward Your Life, and my stylist, Shetorra Nichols.
So I've had women that have come in asking me to strip their actual natural color out so they can go gray quicker. A lot of women don't like the salt and pepper look. Oh, yes, absolutely.
They say blondes have more fun. I'm saying gray women with long hair have the most fun, especially if you know, young and got the energy. We have the most fun. Trust me.
I'm your host, Sophia Stevens, and this is The Maiden Myth. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to The Maiden Myth on iTunes, so each week when an episode drops, it will download straight to your device. Are you listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. Are you prepared to introduce yourself?
I'm always prepared to introduce myself. You know, they say you need to have an elevator speech, prepared always. And when you show up as yourself, you can always introduce yourself. So my name is Lashawnda Becoats, and I am the founder of the brand Run Toward Your Life, which originally started off as a life coaching brand, a lifestyle coaching brand, to just help people really dig into living their best life and actually becoming an accountability partner to people, because you can be out there doing all the things, thinking you're doing so well for yourself, but you're not hitting the marks. And you don't oftentimes hit the marks because you still have this fear that lives in you. And so you might not be doing exactly what you want to do in the way that you want to do it. And so I decided to step into coaching and become an accountability to people and help them actually overcome their fears by setting goals.
I'm already like, sign me up. After this interview, I'll sign up. So that's absolutely awesome. Okay, so I want to start from the beginning.
Oof.
Okay, and start from the beginning. The beginning I'm thinking of is when you first found your first gray hair.
Wow. So that would be like when I was 18 years old. So
Okay.
long time ago. And actually I gray prematurely. I get my gray hair from my father, who got it from his father. So it is actually hereditary. So the first grays came when I was about 18 years old. And probably around 20, I started graying my hair. Dyeing, I should say, my hair, because I was going to the hairdresser, getting that perm, getting that cut. And, old school beauticians are like, you have gray hair. And I was like 20. And they were like, you need to dye your hair. So I started with rinses, and then eventually went to dye as the hair started to gray even more. And I did that until I turned 40. And at 40, I was like, no can do. It's time to just let it be. I got tired of it, actually.
Okay, so that's what really attracted me. First of all, you spent about 20 years, 20 plus years, paying for this rinse, paying for the dye, constantly.
Covering.
And then covering your hair, right? Covering the gray, covering it up. And then you go on vacation.
Yes. Went to Europe.
For your 40th?
Yep. Went to Europe. And, I was one who got my hair done every week. So you weren't going to see many grays slipping up, in my roots.
Right.
But when I was in Europe, I was gone for almost 2 weeks, and the grays started popping in. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. And I, on that trip, started to embrace the idea of what my natural beauty looked like. Like I said, when you drop in money every week at the hair salon, making sure your hair is tight, and you're spending thousands of dollars on your hair, it was like, you know what, let's see. So when I got back to the States, my stylist at the time was like, oh no, you cannot walk around with gray hair. You need to color it. And we got into a little back and forth, and eventually I left her, but kept the gray hair and decided to just see what would happen.
First of all, that is already traumatic too. Get into it with your stylist. How long had you been with your stylist?
This particular stylist, probably a couple of years. I like to switch it up because I like energy. So I'm always one that, especially when it comes to touching hair, you got to go with people who have good energy, because I've had some interesting situations over the years where people's energy was off and got a little bald spot in the back. And, so I'm very clear about things and people energetically. So yeah.
Wow.
Switched up.
Wow. That is so true too. That is so true. Energy all up in the hair. I mean, it's personal. It's vulnerable. It's like
when people are touching you. Yeah. When people are touching you, you have to be careful about transference of energy. I don't take hugs from everybody.
Listen, just
listen.
Take care. I see you. I acknowledge you.
Hey,
and that's it.
But don't touch me. Hey, but don't touch me.
Wow. A good hairstylist can change your life. She knows your diet, how to keep you looking good, and depending on how long you've been going, she knows about your personal life. A lot is revealed in that chair. My incredible stylist is relatively new, which means she doesn't know too much of my business yet. That's exactly why I decided to invite her on to share her thoughts on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, Shetorra Nichols. Do you have any gray hairs?
I have a lot of gray hairs.
Really?
And let me start by telling you that I'm also not married, but I do have children.
Yes.
And I will contribute a lot of those gray hairs to them. But I will tell you, welcome to the 40 Club.
Thank you.
I'm a little over 40.
Just a little.
But I will tell you, it happens overnight.
Oh my God.
You start off with one hair, and then before you know it, you're like, everywhere I part, there's like gray hair. Infectious. So you're doing good.
Okay.
That you've only spotted one or two. I do your hair and I haven't seen any gray hair.
That's so true. See, oh my God, y'all, I'm not lying. Okay, she would call me out right now. I just saw one, but you may start seeing more. And I was thinking, I may actually just let it go gray.
And why not? Why not? As a hairstylist, we're supposed to encourage people, to try different things, to do color and do different cuts and different styles. But as a hairstylist and just as a woman, a woman of a certain age, because we are now.
Absolutely.
I feel like, why? This is part of us.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I am.
Yeah.
I am struggling with it, probably like you are, to color, to not to color. I have a lot, Sophia. I have a lot of gray hair, and they've happened literally overnight. And I have not colored my hair probably in about 4 or 5 months, and I'm still at this personal debate with myself on whether I do it or whether I don't. And every day it changes.
Where do you think that pressure
comes from? It's society. Society makes us feel as though we're supposed to be 20 years old for the rest of our lives, right?
That is the truth. Yeah. Yeah.
We're supposed to look like we're 20. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to act like we're 20. Well, not act, but society. I mean, they have a store, Forever 21. What is that telling?
Oh my God.
That's telling you they want us to be this certain age, bracket for the rest of our lives in order to be beautiful.
Age. Yeah.
This is the most valued age. Yes, exactly. Wow. Exactly. And I think society puts a lot of pressure on us. You see a lot of men that are older. They call it distinguished with gray hair. When we get old, right. When we get gray hair, we're old ladies, we're old maidens, we're old this, we're old that. There's nothing beautiful and sophisticated that they've established within society about women aging at all.
Right. Times are changing, but ultimately, women are still penalized by society for getting older. And one of the few professions that see the effects of this up close and personal are our hairstylists.
I have a client that she started graying in her 20s.
Wow.
And she was so nervous and so upset. She started coloring her hair, and she said it didn't feel right. Her hair didn't feel right. She just didn't feel like herself. So she let all of her hair come in gray. This woman is now 63 years old. Her hair is stark white. It's not even gray. It's white. It's the most beautiful head of hair you have ever seen for any woman of any age, especially a woman her age. Her being in her 60s, she has beautiful, luscious white hair. And she's embraced it, like she said, since her 20s. Now, on the flip side, I have another woman that is also same age bracket. She's in her 60s, and she didn't have me color her hair, but she was coloring her hair at home.
Wow.
So when she would come to me to have it colored, the color that I was using and the color that she was using at home didn't clash.
Oh, God.
So her hair turned purple.
Oh, my gosh.
And she kept lying to me and telling me, I'm not coloring my hair at home. I'm not coloring my hair at home. And I'm like, listen, I'm a professional. I know that my products versus the products that you might find, at Sally's, the color. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have metallics, and the metallics don't go good with gray, and they don't go good with other colors. So every time I would do a root touch up on her roots would come up purple. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
This is not me. And but she had no problem with it. And I know why she didn't have a problem with it, because she knew what she was doing at home. So finally, one day we sat down and talked, and I said, listen, I can't color your hair anymore, because every time I color it, your roots are turning purple. Something's going on. I don't know if it's medication you're on. I don't know what you're doing at home. And she finally admitted that she was home spraying this root cover up on her hair because she didn't want her husband to see her gray hair. Her husband, this is a man that you married, that obviously when you married him, you probably didn't have gray hair, right?
Right.
But now you do. And she was so ashamed and so self-conscious about exposing that part of herself to her husband that she would use this spray root touch-up to keep her hair a certain color until she was able to get to me to get a touch-up. But when she came, we're not shampooing your hair before we put the color in, so I'm just putting it on. And I'm like, you don't really have that much gray hair, but something's not right. And it wasn't mixing well. So you have two different aspects. You have two different women in the same age demographic that decided to color, and one that decided not to. And one was pressured by the man in her house, she felt. And the other was pressured by society to just be herself. So what do you do? What do you do?
You just knocked me upside the head with that. I wasn't expecting you to come that hard, but you did. Okay, first of all, there are so many thoughts going on in my head. I'm going to keep them all. in order. I'm going to say them, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to say any. No, I'm going to definitely say them. The first thing is, I specifically thought this was a single woman's issue when it came to romance, not necessarily in the workforce. Okay.
Yeah.
I just, for me, it's like, oh, I haven't found the one yet. I want to preserve my youth, almost as if that is what is going to draw in the person in my life. And to consider that, no, actually, you can be in a marriage and still carry that same pressure to preserve something that is so fleeting.
Absolutely.
That is amazing to me.
And we all go through it. We're all going to change.
Yes, right.
Whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not, whether you've had children, whether you hadn't, whether you're in your career, whether you're not, we're all going to go through these changes. It's part of being a human being.
Right.
So do you embrace it or do you fight it?
Lashawnda chose to fully embrace it. Let's go back to her. Okay, so you come back, you say, I'm going to just allow my hair to, grow in as it grows in. Mm-hmm. And what was your feeling? Were you anxious about it?
I was scared. I was scared to death. I was scared to death. I was scared because I was in that point of my life, I was still figuring out what my beauty and worth was, right? So I was still stuck on the societal idea of what beauty looks like. I thought that gray hair would make me look old, that people would treat me differently. I got a lot of ridicule from friends, family, telling me, don't do it. You're going to look awful. It was really hard. It was really, really tough. And I actually started the process and then I dyed it because of the fear. So when I'm talking about overcoming fear, I'm talking about real fear. All because I thought people were going to judge me, right? So dyed it, went through that again, and something in my spirit said, no, sis, you could do this. You're tired of dyeing it. Step into it. And so I committed to it, went through the process of letting it grow out and having like two-tone hair for a while. And it, I will say, has been one of the best things I have done for myself. Wow. Because it has empowered me. Like, I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think. I don't care how you judge me at this point. I mean, and I get it. I get it from younger people, older people. It's a whole entire lifestyle. They say blondes have more fun. I'm saying gray women with long hair have the most fun, especially if you know, young and got the energy. Yeah. We have the most fun. Trust me.
And see, I believe you because I see it. When you recognize your beauty, other people can't help but notice it too. Maybe Lashawnda's decision is what led to her landing a modeling contract. As images of beautiful women with gray hair populate the internet, more women feel empowered to follow suit, and this means more variation of gray. I recently learned that there are different shades of gray. There's white, silver, gray, salt and pepper, and then there's grombre, a combination of the words gray and ombre. As women slowly transition to going gray, stylists skillfully shade their gray hair into other colors, and I love it. Have you had women come in asking you for something like that, or is it mostly just going lighter?
So I've had women that have come in asking me to strip their actual natural color out so they can go gray quicker. A lot of women don't like the salt and pepper look. Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of people don't like the salt and pepper look, which the majority of us are still going to have about 50%, 70% dark hair still, right? So there's just those in-between strands that will turn gray. It's very far and few in between that every single hair that grows out of your head is going to grow out gray.
So
not
true.
at first. Not at first.
Right.
You're going to get the little sporadic gray hairs.
And
then it will slowly.
Thing.
It's annoying. People don't like the salt and pepper look.
Right.
So I've definitely had women like, listen, can we bleach out my dark hair and just make it all gray? And I'm like, well, we can bleach it, but then we have to tone it with a whole gray color, because when I bleach it out, you're going to get that brassy orange that you get underneath of normal, because that still has pigment in it. The gray hair doesn't have pigment in it, but the dark hair still has pigment in it. So you have to pull that
Wow, you
out.
still have to bleach it.
So I have that. You have women that will come in and get like a demi-permanent color just to blend it. So it's not like it's super, super dark and it's all one color. That kind of gives you that gray ombre look where you have, and it's beautiful because you can play around with, like a red, you can play around with a light brown, you can play around with so many different colors. But it's personal preference. It's really based on personal preference.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. What was that?
No sponsors? Wait, read this. Ugh, girl.
If you want us to continue creating inspiring content and are looking for ways to support this podcast beyond your time and ears, please consider a donation by clicking the donate link or visit themaidenmyth.com to contribute whatever you want to give. No amount is too small. Now, back to our show.
Girl, I hope this works.
There is something about having gray hair and then your skin is still tight. See,
your skin got to be tight, your booty got to be tight, your legs, your arms, everything has to be tight, but seriously though, it is really about how you take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you think you're old, you're going to act old. But if your spirit is young and free, you get to be however you want to be, but it is who you see when you look in the mirror. And when I look in the mirror, I see a woman that's alive, that's full of joy and life. And that's why I run toward my life every day.
So while you were running toward your life, were you helping other people run toward their life, or did that come after?
That came after, actually. The Run Towards Your Life brand came from being in a space at that particular time of living and doing things and not actually realizing that I was living this magical life that I dreamed about. And I was on an airplane. I think I was coming from Europe when it hit me. My children were older. One was in school, one had graduated, the other one was doing his thing. And I was on a plane and I was like, you are running toward your life. You are not living in fear. You are going after and doing all the things you wanted to do. And that's where the brand came from. And so as a journalist, I used to write a column and people would reach out all the time and ask me questions. It was around style and fashion for the newspaper here where I live. And people would ask me life questions.
I interrupted Lashawnda here because I needed her to share with the listeners how her amazing career journey began.
Basically, my background before stepping into journalism was graphic design. Worked for a newspaper in the very beginning of my career at 18 as an editorial assistant. Fast forward, different city, Charlotte, North Carolina, came here and became a graphic designer for the newspaper here, for the main newspaper here. And then when they laid folks off over 10 years ago, it was an opportunity for me to recreate myself. And so always had the talent of being a writer, but the real opportunity came when one of my fellow colleagues left the newspaper and started a brand. And I saw in his brand that he was missing style and fashion and makeup and all those things, online publication. And I reached out and said, hey, I'm the woman for you. I can write. He's like, but you're a graphic designer. I'm like, but I can write. So he asked me for some samples of my writing at the time. When I showed him the samples, he was blown away and hired me immediately. And within,
so you had samples?
Well, I created samples. I wasn't writing professionally at that particular time, but I created samples based on this idea of being a columnist and talking about beauty and fashion and style. And so submitted that to him. He loved it, hired me immediately. And within 2 months, I was covering Fashion Week and celebrities and all of that. So that was my official start into journalism, and it's morphed from that to editor-in-chief and all that good stuff.
What I love about this story is first how you
a job that was on the line, or you were about to get laid off, or you didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got laid off and you saw it as an opportunity to recreate yourself.
Absolutely.
Already, I'm like, your mindset is different. Your perspective is already different.
Yes.
I mean, has it always been that way?
It's developed over the years, but here's the thing that I think is so important for people to understand. A lot of times we tie ourselves to a title, right? We used to be this or we're that. And when things shift, one of the things that I've always tried to do is be light on my feet. So I believe that everything starts with first knowing your skill set. Your title can change, your job, you can lose your job, but what are your skills? So as I shared, I was a graphic designer. I was on a computer designing things, but I've always been a writer. I've been a writer since college. I've always written, right? Loved written word. And when I saw an opportunity, I was like, hey, let me see if I could create something that this person would buy into. And I think that that's a part of being creative. You have to look at opportunities, but first look at your skill sets. What is it that you do? What are you good at? You know, what are those things that really can propel you forward, not just focusing on a job title? I want to be an XYZ. What are the skill sets to be an XYZ, whatever that is?
That'll take you so much further.
Absolutely. Focusing on skill sets, not job titles.
Wow. And then acknowledging it. A lot of times women women, we have trouble acknowledging our strengths. It's like, no, sit in what you're really good at so that when you see something, you can have the audacity to say, all right.
Okay. That is for me. And claim it, right? Yeah. And claim it. We wait a lot of times for other people to validate us. And my thing has been for many, many moons, you have to learn how to validate yourself first. Everything happens from the inside and radiates out. When we look for things to come to us from the outside, circumstances, people, opinions, thoughts change all the time. But if we're taking that in as the validation to our core of who we are, we're always going to be screwed up. We're always going to be, up and down and backward and forward and sideways and depressed and, just looking outside of ourselves for our own strength when everything starts from the inside. So as a columnist at the time, as I mentioned, people started reaching out, asking me for advice offline. And my crazy self was meeting readers all over the city. That I didn't know. I'm like that. Like, I'm energy. So people would hit me up. Can I have coffee? I have something to discuss. I would meet people. And then a good friend of mine said to me one day, you are spending so much time doing therapy for these people. You need to get paid to do this, because it was outside of my scope of work. It was just me being Lashawnda, just being super friendly.
Wow.
And then I started to look into what that would mean, what that looks like. And then that's when I decided to become certified and start to coach. And that started the journey to run toward your life.
One evolution led to the next, and each one depended on her willingness to be a shapeshifter, a professional flower, a transformer. At the age of 52, she continues to nurture a spirit that is unafraid to dance with life's changes, whether it's gray hair, gray days, or school days.
So I moved to Grenada for a man that I met. So let's start there.
Okay.
And fell in love on vacation. Packed up my stuff, paid off my debt, was going over to Grenada to start this fabulous new life. And while I was there, I decided to resign from my job. I got sick, and then I got engaged all in like a month's worth of time. And took a sabbatical, and then decided to take a sabbatical, like stop working and just breathe and enjoy my life on the island. And that's what I did.
Okay.
I know I said a lot.
No, because see, I'm just moving apartments and I have anxiety over that. Change is not easy for everybody.
It is
and
not.
You just gave 3 huge life shifts that happened in 3 weeks?
Within a month. I got dengue fever, which you can't help that. That's a tropical thing that happens. And then resigned from my job. And then shortly after that, my ex-fiance proposed. And so decided from that point I was going to be on sabbatical. So when I came back to the States to visit my family last summer, the relationship shifted. And so I decided to stay in the States a little while longer. And then I said, okay, you got to put your big girl panties on. What is it that you want to do? So again, looking at skill sets, looking at things that people asked me to do for them professionally while I was on sabbatical, and decided to go back to school for digital marketing and wrapped up that program May of this year. So yeah, I was in school 3 days a week, busting my behind.
What was that like going back to school?
Listen, it was very challenging because it was something that I said I would not do at this stage of my life, this stage of my career. I was like, But I had been asked to do some marketing. And when I looked at where I was skill set level, I decided that I could not provide the potential clients with what it was they were asking. I could actually provide more if I went back to school and honed the skills, because there were things I didn't know. So journalism, public relations, you market people all the time. But when it comes to digital marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, SEM, content management, social media management, that's all a whole nother ballpark. And so when I looked at what people were asking me, and I realized they needed more. And then I realized that a lot of Black and brown people, men and women, were being left behind when it comes to the digital marketing side. We think that we just get on social media, put a little post up, and if it gets some likes, it converts. It's more than that. So I wanted to go back to school to really be able to offer a full service to potential businesses and brands.
What would you say has been the biggest reinvention of yourself? Like the drastic, like the biggest change? Personally
or professionally?
Ooh, okay. I want to say both.
Ooh, you want to get in my business.
I do, because I'm obsessed.
No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
I have no shame. I'm like, yeah, I do.
So personally, I would definitely say it was, again, stepping out of this idea that corporate America needed to be the place that was going to sustain my life.
Wow.
When we were laid off 14 years ago, something like that. Now I lose track. I don't even care. It doesn't even matter, actually.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I don't keep track of the time. But when that happened, again, it was like, okay, so who do you want to be now? Like, what do you want to do? And so, again, stepping to this idea of skill sets, and then going from graphic designer to magazine editor to moderator, then to model, because I model professionally. Just wrapped a gig about a month ago. Did some other bigger stuff earlier this year for ESPN and Disney. So model professionally. So I was like, I get to
Let me tell you,
be the little kid,
right?
And be
Don't
whatever
put me in
it
a
is.
box.
Listen, that is one of my hashtags. There is no box. Do not box me up, because you're going to get your feelings hurt. As soon as you think you got me pegged, you know who I am, what I'm going to be doing next, I'm like, bam, it's just something completely different. And so the biggest metamorphosis has been believing in myself and looking at the world as an opportunity to do whatever the I want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No boxes. Just let me be free.
Just let me be free.
Personal reinvention. What's the biggest one in your life that you would say?
Personal reinvention, in part, has so much to do with my gray hair. Embracing, again, the my definition of beauty and not really leaning on society to tell me that these big old juicy lips ain't beautiful, this dark old skin ain't beautiful, and that this long, naturally gray hair isn't beautiful. When you can look in the mirror and truly accept yourself, that's the biggest thing we have to overcome. Pimple, bad skin, overweight, underweight, bad teeth, whatever it is, accept that. And it's okay to want to change it and work towards changing it. But when you can wake up every morning and say, I love me. I may not be the best me yet, but I'm working on that. But looking at yourself, and I'm accepting.
This is where I am.
That was the biggest transformation. But even in having that peace for myself, there's still things that I have to battle. You know, body shaming is huge, a huge part of what I go through a lot, because it's out there. People have opinions about how they think you should look. And again, I don't really care. When I look at myself, if I'm okay with what I see, then we're going to work with that.
Thank you for being vulnerable, because looking at you, I'm like, I don't see any issues. Like, where?
Girl, listen.
I'm being serious. I'm like, where is her weak spot? She doesn't have one. It's
yes, I do.
And I know you're not perfect. You know what I mean? I can't say that. There's room for everybody to grow. But I mean, wow, thank you for that vulnerability. Everybody has their thing.
Everybody has their thing. I'm going to tell you this because it's so crazy, but I went through this thing probably for the last 4 or 5 months with yellow teeth, right? Because I love coffee. So I'm drinking coffee and I brush with this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get my teeth, color, what do you call it? Whitened and all this stuff. Yeah. And so I went through this psychological thing because I'm like, I love coffee. I'm not giving up coffee, but it keeps staying in my teeth. What am I going to do? So I wasn't smiling as much.
Wow.
Like, believe it or not, I was like, oh my God, my grill is like busted. I need to go get my teeth straight, because of the yellowing. And found a system, an all natural system from this Black owned health care company that I absolutely love, and started whitening my teeth naturally. And I'm smiling, cheesing at everybody again.
You cheesing a lot right now. And let me tell you, you're absolutely beautiful.
Well,
you're a solution-oriented woman. That's what it is.
Have to be. Yes. We have to. Okay, so we know the problems. Right. But one of the questions I ask people all the time, especially in a coaching space, is we know the problem. We can identify the problem, whatever it is, right?
Right, yeah.
How do we talk about solutions? How do we get to solving? And that's where we end up needing accountability partners, because when you sit in your own mess, sometimes it's hard to get out. Sometimes it's really, really difficult. And so,
it gets comfortable almost. It's scary because it gets comfortable being miserable or comfortable just sulking. And it's
sulking. It gets comfortable.
Where you want to stay?
Talking to people who are in the same space as you are.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't do pity parties. I don't have space for it. Let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about how we move forward. Let's talk about solutions. So absolutely.
I love how this conversation went from gray hair to moving forward. Because for me, it's really deeper than gray hair. It's about acceptance. It's about being comfortable with changing and embracing all of yourself in every stage of your life.
Is there something else you wanted to add?
No, not really. Just that we all as women have to embrace who we are. In whatever way, shape, or form that you come in, especially being a hairstylist. I see so many different women, and some women have insecurities about this or insecurities about that.
Yeah.
Just be your best authentic self. That's all you can do. If you have gray hair, rock your gray hair.
Yeah.
If you have one gray hair, rock what I will say, rock that one gray hair. But please do not pull that hair out. That's all I ask of people.
So wait a minute. Let's talk about that.
Do not pull the hair out, because people tend to pluck a gray hair. So there's an old wives' tale, right? That if
5 more will come?
Right. Well, they say 2, 4, 5, whatever. All I say is don't pluck it. Let that gray hair come in, and you decide if you want to keep her and keep her gray. You want to darken her up, lighten her up. there's so many things you can do with it, but just be authentic to who you are.
Okay. Well, just for the record, I did not pluck her.
Please don't.
I cut her. I was very casted. Oh, you got to go. I went
right to the root. She gonna come back. Sophia, she coming back.
I know.
She's coming back.
But you know what else it is? It's like they don't behave.
They don't.
The grays they're not falling in line with everybody else.
They don't.
They're like standing up strong. It's a different texture.
It is because you've lost all the hair color pigment out of it. So it's a very wiry, coarse texture. And that's across the board. That's
She's
Black
mean.
women, white women, everybody. It turns a completely different texture. But like you said, if you've lived, you get to experience that. People that haven't lived don't get to experience that. So why not embrace it?
You know what? That's a whole testimony. I am here, and this is proof. I've been here.
Yes.
I've been here.
Yes.
Thank you to my wonderful guest, Lashawnda Becoats. You can find her at runtowardyourlife.com. You can also find her on Instagram, runtowardyourlife. And to my stylist, Shetorra Nichols. You can find her on Style Seat in LA, y'all. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to share, rate, and review. We want to hear from you. I'm Sophia Stevens, and you've been listening to The Maiden Myth. Here at The Maiden Myth, we replace fallacy with fact, trickery with truth, and assumption with assertion. It seems only right to counter the myth that began our episode with a powerful affirmation. Today's affirmation is, I age gracefully and embrace my body's wisdom. The Maiden Myth podcast is produced by Philosophia Productions, mixed by Sonca Nguyen. The music supervisor is Johnie, Steele. The managing producer, Life Creative Group. Assistant producers, Sarah Benebo and Ronald and Doretta Stevens. Special thanks to Michelle Adewumni and Jennifer Edison. Want more? Join the Maiden Myth community at themaidenmyth.com. You can also find us on every podcast platform, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, where you can leave a comment and join in the conversation.